Hi, I'm going to demonstrate the differences in analog and digital recording, in particular, the way it sounds, and take a kind of a deep dive into what's going on. So you can see on the screen there, when I'm speaking, that display is changing. And what you're seeing here is a frequency response graph of my voice. And you can see the various energies at different frequencies. So right here, it's about 129 cycles. And it goes all the way up past, I don't know, 15K up here, 15,000. So this will show you what's going on with frequency and also the level across frequency. We're going to use this on the recording so that we can analyze what we're hearing. First thing I'm going to do is play a sine wave. A sine wave, it just has one frequency, right? So it's going to be at 500 cycles. So you're going to see a peak happening right at 500 cycles and pretty much nothing else. Except when I turn on the tape machine over here, I go, right now I'm in the through or bypass mode. But when I go into the record mode, it's going to shift to creating the sound of a tape machine. And at that point, you'll see different frequencies appear that weren't there. And those frequencies are all going to be harmonics of the original fundamental 500 cycle frequency. So let's take a listen to that. So that's just the 500 cycle. And I'm going to turn on the repro so I can get the tape machine going here. So you can see and you can hear that there's a difference. This time, listen, I'm going to turn it on and off and listen for the differences. So I think that's pretty easy to hear. And there's a more interesting sound as you add those other harmonics. And as it turns out, our ear and brain likes to hear harmonically rich things. Because musical instruments generally are harmonically rich. They don't have just one frequency at the fundamental of the note. They have that frequency in a series of harmonics. And that's exactly what the tape machine is doing, is creating new harmonics. So that's all interesting and well. What does it sound like on music? Well, let's take a listen for that as well. So I'm going to jump ahead here to the music, and I'll push play. And then once again, it'll start off without the effect. When I push this button, the effect will be in, the sound of the tape. Here we go.
Pretend you're happy when you're blue. It isn't very hard to do, and you'll find happiness without an end whenever you pretend.
So I think you could probably hear that difference. When I was in this position, we were listening to the harmonics being generated by the tape. And when it's in this position, we were just hearing the signal as it was. So it definitely seems to make the sound more rich, doesn't it? But what's the difference? Digital can distort too, right? Well, generally, digital distortion is not used in the same way that analog distortion is. Part of the sound of a lot of old recordings was them saturating or distorting the tape slightly. And that generally only happened with the duration transient parts of the signal. And in particular, things like drums would behave very interestingly and well with tape. So that's why it's even to today, some people like to record to analog 2-inch tape drums and sometimes other things as well. When we distort digital, what does that sound like? Well, digital, when it distorts, it just pretty much chops off the top of the waveform. That's called clipping. And clipping, what it does is it kind of creates square wave response, which means that that flat part creates the top of a square wave. And square waves are interesting because they only have a certain series of harmonics. They don't have any even harmonics. So remember, harmonics are multiples of the original frequency. So in the case of the tape, you're also getting the second harmonic, which is twice the frequency. With a square wave, you won't get that. You'll get only the third harmonic, or 3 times the frequency. And then you'll only get the 5th, and then the 7th, and then the 9th, and then the 11th on up. Whereas on tape, you get more of the even ordered harmonics as well. Now, you do get some odd harmonics, but it's a combination. The other thing that happens is that in digital recording, once you get to a certain level, all you're getting pretty much, at least on the peaks, is distortion. Whereas on analog tape, it gradually goes into saturation or distortion. So it has a different, we call it transfer characteristic. And so it behaves differently than digital recording. Digital is like, once you get to the point of distorting digital, you're basically overloading the digital input, then you've got distortion. In the case of tape, there is distortion at a certain level, but it increases the amount as you get louder and louder. So let's hear what digital distortion might sound like. What I'm going to do now is turn this off, and I'm going to use a plug-in that creates distortion from a guitar stomp box. So let's listen to the sine wave with that turned on. Here we go. I'll turn it off, and then I'll turn it on. So it has a different quality to it, doesn't it? And let's listen to that on music as well, and you'll hear that I think it's less pleasing to the ear. This isn't exactly what happens with digital, but this is the harmonics that would be generated by digital. So here we go. And so this is the button that turns it on. So let's listen with it off, and then when I push this button, you'll see it turns on, and you'll hear a difference in tonal quality.
Pretend you're happy when you're blue. It isn't very hard to do, and you'll find happiness.
So it's a much nastier sound, I think, than we got with the analog tape machine. So that's one of the reasons that analog tape distortion is desirable, because it has a different harmonic series than you would get with digital. So I hope this explains to you some of the reasons why analog tape is still used today and what the advantages of it are. Thanks.